Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. On this episode of the Jeff Bradbury Show, we talk all about podcasting and how your podcast can not only get started, but get past that all-important third episode. What do I mean by that? Stick around. We have a fantastic guest on who has built the world's largest real estate podcasting network. We're going to talk today a little bit about how they got started, how they're growing, and how their plan to get to 1,000 different real estate podcasts is going to come to fruition this year. I'm looking forward to this interview. Hope you guys have a great chance to check it out and stick around today. If this is the first time you're checking out the Jeff Bradbury Show, we are here each and every week talking to entrepreneurs and people that are trying to do something amazing in this world. If you have a great story to show, check us out over on teachercast.net/contact. Would love to have you guys be a guest on the show and share a little bit about your passions with our audience. You can, of course, find our show over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you guys get your audio show. And our video programs are always over on teachercast.net/YouTube. Thank you guys for making TeacherCast your home for your professional development. My guest today runs a fantastic podcasting network called Icons of Real Estate that is currently the #1 real estate podcasting network. I want to bring on today my good friend, Tomás Fonseca. Tomas, how are you today? Welcome to TeacherCast.
Hello, Jeffrey, and thank you so much for welcome to TeacherCast. Very happy to be here.
I am so excited to have you on today, talking today all about podcasting, something we've been doing here for the last 14 years. And every time I get into one of these conversations with podcasters, it seems like the same types of questions come up. How do you get started? How do you grow your audience? But most importantly, how do you connect with your audience to build your brand? Talk to us a little bit about yourself. Who is Tomas? And how'd you get started with podcasting?
Yeah, so let's get started in the beginning. I got in touch with podcasts by getting around with the current company that I'm with, that he helped me then found the Icons of Real Estate. And I was in Vietnam, very happily stuck with COVID. I'm saying happily because Vietnam, I think it was both Vietnam and Australia that had incredible conditions in the first year of COVID, because we kind of neglected that COVID existed. So everyone was roaming around free and partying around and traveling inland. So I was staying around in Vietnam. We had this idea of starting a podcast for our company. And it looked foolish at the start, because we never really cared about, marketing and content. Like the only thing we care about is like growth, is sales. So we managed, okay, if we're going to have to do a podcast, we're going to have this translate into sales. So we started the Icons of Real Estate 2 or 3 years ago. We've managed to build a framework based out of all of the mistakes that we did in the past, based out of everything that we learned on every single episode with every single entrepreneur that came around. And we managed to use that to not just double, not just triple, but quadruple the size of our company and to what it currently is. And everything happened through the podcast. So we grabbed that, and now we teach others and we show others how can they do that for their business. So it's more about creating podcasts intentionally, right? So if you want to create a podcast as an hobby, it's probably not the best episode for you, because, go ahead and talk with yourself or talk with some friends. But if you want to create a podcast that you want to make a difference with it, that you want either to grow your business or to make it a famous podcast, then you might in for a treat here for our conversation today.
And I love that you put the horse and the cart in the right order. So many people out there are doing podcasts because they just like to talk to people and they like to meet people, but actually using it as a business tool and using it as a marketing tool. And I would imagine that lead gen to get people to come into your world and to come into your brand. That's an important shift that so many podcasters need to learn about.
For sure. And it's about most podcasts fail, Jeffrey. I don't know if you've seen this study. I always like to come up with a little statistics. My source might not be reliable though, but let's pretend it is. I did see it on Reddit, so it makes sense that it is reliable, right? So it says that like 90% of the podcasts don't go from episode number 3. So they're stuck in episode number 3, and then they give up or they're canceled. 90% of then those that go past episode number 3 don't go past episode number 20, right? So being like, how many episodes are you on, Jeffrey?
14 years.
14 years. We've been, I consider it's been 3 years, and we've been, I think it's closing in on the 500 episodes. So me and Jeffrey were without, of course, we do have to make an effort to do this, but we're in the top 1% of podcasts just for existing. Simple as that.
It's an interesting statistic when you think about it. You know, most shows, as you mentioned, don't get past 3. I've sometimes seen 5 or 6, but it's a month, right? Like most podcasts don't get a month. And what I've also heard was if your show gets more than 20 episodes, you're pretty good. And you're, you know, not that you're going to be a lifer on it, but when you start to extrapolate that, what is 20 episodes? That's 6 months. That means that your significant, your spouse, your whatever, has now said, okay, this is all right for us to do. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm sitting here recording and I look around the monitor and there's my kids having dinner, or, you know, hey, I've got a recording at 8 a.m, or hey, you know, like getting things together so that way this is just part of what you do. And, you know, we've been doing this here for 14 years and you had a chance to meet a lot of people. I got to ask you, though, when you're starting off this podcast, what are some of those things that we want to keep in mind? Everybody says that the joke is, hey, I'm a podcaster. What microphone do you have? But there's so much more to starting up a show. What advice do you have for anybody that's out there that's struggling or starting off or in that show number 3 area saying, do I have what it takes? Should I keep going? How do I get that microphone turned back on again?
So it was something that you were touching on, even with the 8 a.m. recordings and the dinner recordings. Like for everyone not to be too scared about that, you can record at your own convenience. It doesn't have to be at dinner time. But of course, if you do want to pull in a certain level of volume, sometimes, for example, right now it's 7 p.m. to me on a Friday night that I'm here with Jeffrey. Normally, I would be cracking a few beers open. I'm here recording because I do want to make a difference. What I want to touch point on, what I feel that is important here, is the commitment that both me and you are showing here. So commitment is one of the biggest reasons that podcasts fail, is that people are not committed, right? They do one for fun and then they forget about the other, say, oh, I'll do it next month. And then living it for next month is just living for next year, and then it's not going to happen. But the real commitment is something that you can educate yourself on. You can be religious about it. You can read books about it. You can watch, YouTube motivational videos about it. Wake up at 5 a.m. Do all of those crazy routines that we see on TikTok. Okay, so commitment is not something that I'm going to help you with. What I can help you with is in having vision. So vision for me is actually the number one killer of podcasts, because the podcasts that don't make it through are the ones that they don't even have a reason to exist. So it's people that start a podcast just because, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be successful. And it's just going to be a fun 3 weeks of your time. You need to attach a vision to your podcast. You need to attach objectives to your podcast. Write those objectives down. It's another statistic for you, and I think this one is a little bit more reliable than the previous one. I think if you write an objective down, you're already 40% closer to achieving that. So such a simple task, right? So like for everyone that is still even starting out, or episode number 3 or episode number 5, thinking like, what am I going to do with this? Well, just grab a piece of paper and write, what do I want to accomplish from this? And then if it makes you feel good and you see there's a possibility, keep going at it and And I guess from the rest of the questions that Jeffrey will have for me, like we'll teach you on how to actually make it, how to actually make it successful. But the number one pinpoint here is vision. Attach a vision to your podcast.
When did that hit you? Right? So many podcasters do get started. They go those few episodes and then they pod fade, as they call it, right? But at some point in time, I'm sure you guys had that epiphany and went, okay, this is how this works. This is what I'm doing this for. Or did your show start off with, this is a marketing tool from the first episode?
So for us, as addicted to growth as we are, we went always with the mindset that we're using this to grow our business. So the epiphany that we had, it was not something that it happened with us. It was something that it was happening with other people. There we see you see so many podcasts out there, Jeffrey. And that's why, like, you see, like, there is millions and millions of podcasts. Of course there is. Like, maybe half of them only have one episode.
Right.
And it's someone that was just playing around with Apple Podcasts, you know? So, like, we saw that happen. And then we've seen other people that they, in one hand, they were committed. They did 1 year of podcasting, but then they stopped. Like, if something is either helping you on some level or helping your business, you don't stop, right? You keep it going. So if you stop the podcast, it's because it wasn't working. So we saw an opportunity. We saw an opportunity, Jeffrey, and we work with real estate agents, but the framework that we teach and preach and coach can work on really any industry and any business, you know? So that's why I'm very happy to be here with you and see if we can contaminate some people with the podcasting bug, to see, like, it's not too late. Because that's the other thing that people might think, Jeffrey, like, oh, there's already so many podcasts out there. Oh, they're like, I have a cousin that has a podcast. Everyone has a cousin that has a podcast. You know, I have a cousin that has a podcast. Jeffrey, do you have a cousin that has a podcast?
I've got several cousins that have podcasts, yes.
Exactly. You know, so, but it's not too late yet, because most of the podcasts are going to fail. So if you want to make a podcast that is successful, this is actually not too late. You're just in the right time, because even with AI and all that, and I bet Jeffrey is all over that as well, like it is now even easier. So now is the time for you to get started.
You know, I've looked back on the career quite a bit, and I've often said that right now I'm in the 5th wave of podcasting, right? And when we got started back in 2011, I believe 2010, you know, what was podcasting back then? It was two guys talking about their iPhones, and you had an awful lot of that. And then you had the rise of Google Hangouts, when everybody suddenly could be a podcaster because Google just allowed you to do that stuff. And then people realized that, you know, this is hard. And then Blab came up, and then suddenly everybody's a podcaster again. And then Anchor came up because it was free, and everybody's a podcaster again. And then you've got all these little, you know, hey, try this out. And now you've got the Notebook LMs of the world, where you can just write a script and it makes the podcast for you. 14 years later, we're still here doing this, and we're still doing this on a high level, and having a chance to meet and work with amazing guests on the show. You've had this opportunity to take your framework and nurture others, specifically in the real estate business. Talk to us a little bit about how you decided to take that singular concept, that framework, as you call it, and bring on one other podcast, 3 other podcasts, and really start to take it from a podcast into a network. What was that like? What was that planning like? And how has that strategy paid off for others and for your company?
All right, so 3 question at one. All right, Jeffrey, I'll see if I get it. So the first one is, so as Jeffrey said, we are the number 1 real estate podcast network. We're currently producing, I think it's 67 podcasts. We gather all of those podcasts from our podcast. So the way that, and we can talk about later, I don't know if we're going to have time, but there's 2 ways that we can grow a business with a podcast. One is content creation, right? And that's the one that I don't want to touch on too much. It's the one that it is more close to common sense. Like, everyone can understand how a podcast can help you in content creation, positioning yourself as an authority, making you look good, giving you content for social media, blah, 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 blah. What I like to focus on is in the background of the podcast, what actually no one sees. And that's in the guest funnel, right? So in the guests, in the lines of guests that you have, can be a potential partner of yours, can be a potential client of yours, a potential recruit of yours, potential, even if you just want to make friends, So we've been using our podcast exactly as that, as a relationship funnel. Okay, so we use the podcast to get in front of them and to be part of their sphere. Now, why do we do this, and why don't we just give them a ring? Well, because the attention span of human beings right now is smaller than a clownfish. So, like, for you to be calling someone, getting someone attention today, it's hard. It's not gonna. We're not too far ahead from going to the movies, and they're actually having like other videos on the side of the movie, so people don't check their phones. So the podcasting is one of the still single ways of grabbing 100% of someone's attention. For example, Jeffrey is right now here paying attention to me. Right? It will be really incredible if Jeffrey at the same time is playing Minecraft or something like that. Like, you need to pay attention to a conversation that you're having, face to face. So we use that to build, to get more relationships that turn into conversations that then turn into partnerships, right? So as we're doing that, we realized that we wouldn't do that just for us, that we could do that for other people. So obviously my examples, they're only going to be in real estate, Jeffrey. So for all the people out there, you can still see how we can impact your business. For real estate agents, we've had, there's this case study that we have from a lady in Nebraska. She didn't even have the podcast release. The podcast wasn't even released. She was doing the first recordings. She had so what we do with our podcast is we use the podcast to get more referral partners. So more people that are willingly to give you real estate referrals. And there was this one that they got on such a good rapport with each other. Then 2 weeks after that, the guest called Shay, our client, saying like, "Hey Shay, I actually have a referral for you. It's a land development project with 330 listings. That's 330 houses for who doesn't know the real estate lingo, that you can have in one term, and that's from one episode, from one relationship, and the podcast wasn't even out. So the power of relationships, it's really intangible. And I always say to our network, like, a relationship is either worth $2 or $2 million, right? And if you treat 52 relationships, so if you have a year, you have 52 weeks. If you're doing one episode a week, there's 52 relationships. If you treat 52 relationships like they're worth $2 million, it's not so crazy to think that one or two might be 3 or 4. If you treat them like they're all $2, you bring $100 by the end of the year, and that's it. If you treat them like they're all worth $2 million, you're gonna get the benefit. So that's just one example, Jeffrey, from what happened. We use the podcasting for other means, also to raise capital. So for investors as well is super important. Also in terms of recruiting, it's one step ahead that you can have ahead of other people that might want to recruit someone. Just invite to the podcast. You can have a close one-on-one conversation with them. Who knows if you're going to fall in love? But yeah, that's the power of relationships, and how can podcasting get you in the forefront of that?
What are some of the biggest challenges that you've had in growing your network and growing your shows and putting this whole process together?
It's really about the challenge is not about on how to make it grow the business is really on the engagement. So the real engagement calls for being genuine, right? For having a genuine content and genuine guests, and obviously building a community around that. So that's the one thing that we challenge ourselves with. That we do that very well with our own podcast, because we have a mission that we've been following for 3 years, and we're really, really serious about it. We release one episode every day, every weekday. So that's 22 episodes a month. That's 200, almost 200 episodes in a year. For the people in our network, and even for the others, like you struggle to go past 50 views, 100 views, 200 views, and everyone has the mentality, oh, I want to be a millionaire because of the podcast. There's very few podcasts that make a living out of the podcast itself, right? So there is sometimes a little kind of wrong interpretation into what that is going to look like. So we need to manage expectations a lot into understanding, like, hey, like, podcasting helped you put some money in your pocket, because it helped you sell that house. It helped you do whatever that your business wants you to do. Having 50 views, 100, doesn't really matter, right? Sometimes it matters, because of ego and all. But there's this very nice meme, and we even use that as a newsletter, that people say, like, oh, I've only my episode only had 300 views. I was like, have you tried to fit 300 people in your house? Like, they don't fit. Well, I don't know if you have a gigantic house, but there is, I only had 5,000 views. Like 5,000 views, like you can fill the Oprah with that. So we need to manage a lot of expectations to the value of each viewership as well. But as we work in an industry where each customer has a very big value, right? So a house, as you know, is worth a lot for the agent. We can settle with that. But now if you're selling Barbies or toys, and each toy goes for $14, and you have 20 views on your podcast, there's a challenge, because even if only one buys, it's still not enough, right? So that's some challenge, and that's always going to be something that you have to be committed, and you have to create engaging content for it, and build actually a fan base. It's not easy at all.
Let's talk a little bit about that engaging content. You said that you're creating shows every day, 22 a month. How are you doing this? Where are you coming up with the concepts? Are the shows more teachable? Are the shows more interview and you get what you can get? Or are you building out a curriculum over a month with a common theme, as you will?
So when I said the shows is for our own show, so we do episodes every single day. We have multiple hosts, because then as I was explaining to you, like, we're using this to scale, right? We're big picture podcast. For our own podcasts, they have different topics, Jeffrey. But in addition to what we do for their podcast and ours, we produce around 300, between 200 and 300 episodes a month, right? In order for how long? That's one of the things that you might even have a say in that. But what I feel that is the ideal length of a podcast is between 20 and 30 minutes. Ideally 20, 25. I mean, if you have someone amazing on your podcast, I mean, you can take that a little bit longer than that. But anything longer than 30, 35 minutes, people are gonna already think of, like, I don't have time for this, And you rather them, I have 40 minutes, I can listen to 2 episodes of 20 minutes than listening to one. So they're around that time, Jeffrey.
What is let's kind of do podcast nerd talk here for a second. recommended equipment, microphones. Because you know that people are listening to this. They know it's a show about podcasting. What do you use? What do you like to have? What are you speaking into right now? What's your podcasting setup?
Yeah. So even right now is even not the most professional one, and I even like to put that on to understand that it's you don't need to have the most expensive equipment to get started. Okay. I unfortunately landed my good microphone to my friend, which hasn't still returned. I hope he listens to this. But this is, a very normal $50 microphone that you can get on Amazon. All right. There's even cheaper ones that you can go at that. And obviously, like, headphones is something. It's more important if there's someone else around. If you live by yourself, or if there's no one else around, like the speakers is it's okay. The good microphones, they don't get any other noise but your voice. I don't have like specific models to recommend or suggest, Jeffrey. All I say is like microphone, a proper webcam. If you have a MacBook Pro, they usually have like a very nice camera. If you don't, you might need to purchase a third party one. So just put that there. It's very easy, very affordable. So for example, for an easy setup with maybe a little over $100, you get the minimal. If you want a professional setup, like with $300-$400, like you're already getting a pretty good equipment. But yeah, just go there. Even go to your next closest electronics store and just buy whatever they suggest. Like, the importance is more on getting started, and it's even a fun. I don't know if you did that. Obviously, you did that because, Jeffrey, you've been doing for 15 years. You look back to your first episode, and now you look to now. It's like the evolution of equipment, the evolution of quality of audio, the quality of video. I like to see that. So I don't mind when people get started with the cheap equipment.
I like that you just said the evolution. I don't know if you can see it, but behind me, and on purpose is always behind me, is my first Yeti microphone. And it was what I had back in 2010 when I first started this. And, subconsciously, I always have it right behind me, because when I'm sitting here talking to you, in my mind, it's the never forget where you came from idea. Mm-hmm. It's, your beginnings are always right there, and they're always there to support you, and they're always there to push you forward. Just kind of one of those little things that I do in the back to say, okay, it doesn't matter how much you've put into this. It doesn't matter anything. As I've said over and over again, just create good content. Just have a great conversation, be present, be in that moment. And even when I'm working with teachers on like classroom podcasting stuff, they always ask, well, what kind of equipment do I need? And I go, you don't need anything. You've got a $150 Chromebook has a microphone and a camera in it. A MacBook has a microphone and a camera. You don't need to have any equipment outside of your phone or a Chromebook or whatever you need. You can record audio at any scale at any point in time. And I also say to them, you don't actually have to do anything with it. You can have a great conversation and not use it. You can make something that doesn't sound very good and then never let it see the light of day. And as you mentioned, you don't need to be actually publishing stuff. Those conversations that you've made, and I've had this happen to me time and time again, you just make a follow-up with that guest and go, hey, thanks for being on the show. If there's anything I can do for you. And then you just kind of let the cards play out. And yeah, occasionally you do get that email that says, hey, I have 300 houses for you to help me flip. What can you do for me? It's exactly. An amazing opportunity here. Where do you see the future of podcasting going? We are in that strange place right now where you're right. Anybody can still create a podcast. Anybody can build a real estate podcast and start talking about it. Anybody has a microphone these days. How do you break through that noise? And what do you see as the future of your podcasting network?
So it's, as you said, it's something very easy to get started, right? So anyone can get started. I think first and foremost, we need to touch on the point of AI more to talk about efficiency. efficiency of production and the quality of it. So like everything that is happening around, all the tools that we have for editing, repurposing, publishing, and whatnot, like we need in the future us and podcasters, we need to be like ready to use as soon as one platform gets in, because if you're not going to use it, someone else will, right?
Right.
So that's one thing. And what I envision in the future is like the production becoming more and more efficient, and the quality being a very definite factor, right? So we like to say one thing that's like people can stand bad video, people don't stand bad audio. So it's
very true.
You see a video on YouTube, and it has a little squishy audio, or you see like it has a little bit of echo. Like you kill that video. You're not gonna see that. Like you kill that video. So I think the requirements then of quality and the expectations that the audience has is also going to grow as the technology grows. Good thing it also grows. It always grows hand in hand. So that's one, Jeffrey. And then the other is we maintain our uniqueness of our framework on the value of creating relationships through these conversations. So the future is really bringing more of this, possibly bringing this into different industries. We do produce a podcast in South Africa. I don't want to name us international just because of that, but it's bring this into more countries, more languages, and help people leverage this tool that is available to everyone, which is podcasting.
People also ask about using AI, which you mentioned, and I got to tell you, it's been a game changer for me. I organize everything using an app called Notion, and I use AI to do all of my show notes. I use AI to hit all of the talking points and the chapter markers and all of those things. And the program that we're using now to record this, as soon as we're finished here, it automatically spits out the transcripts, and that's been a time saver. And, father of 11-year-old triplets here, you need to make sure that you're leveraging that technology so that way, as you said earlier, you have time for the things that are important to you. And so no matter when you're recording, no matter when you're editing, no matter when you're processing, using these tools. And I mean, if you can comment on your own system, we're recording right now in a program called Riverside. I stick the audio into Final Cut and do all the video stuff in there. All of my show notes get done in Notion. I stick it onto the website. I'm done. Graphics are all done through Canva. What's your setup? What's your applications of choice?
We use Descript, and then instead of using Riverside, as we actually had a conversation with Riverside about this, but they didn't want to make our life easier. As we're 65 now. Like we plan to be, more than 100 by the end of this year, and our plan is to reach 1,000. So Riverside is something that can mainly be used for podcasts, but Zoom is a tool that most entrepreneurs and people even that work, right, teachers use, right. So we mainly use Zoom for recording. I am very well aware of that Riverside is a better option in terms of quality. We use Zoom because of accessibility. So it's a cheaper option, and it's something that you can use otherwise with other stuff. So we use Zoom for recording. We use Descript for all the editing, show notes, transcripts, and then we can also repurpose the reels there. And then we use Canva Pro, as you said, for the thumbnails and the quote cards.
Where can we learn more about the great stuff that you're doing? What's the website for the podcast?
Yeah, so if you go to iconsofrealestate.com, you'll be seeing our sexy website right there. If you go to iconsofrealestate.com /podcast-framework, you'll see that I wrote our 5 podcast frameworks. That it's basically all you need to do to understand a little bit more of the mindset of using a podcast for success, and you'll be one step ahead of making sure that your podcast is successful.
We will definitely make sure we have links to this and all of the different items, applications that we mentioned on the show today. You can find out more information over at teachercast.net/podcast. This is episode 67 of the Jeff Bradbury Show. Tomas, thank you so much for your time today. I wish that you would come back on the show maybe over the summertime. We'll talk a little bit about how you're growing from where you are now to, I can't believe you said you want to get 1,000 shows running through your network. That is a lofty goal. And we're going to hold you to it, man. So
please do.
Let's have some fun, and we'll have you guys come back on over the summertime. I'll give you the mic here at the end of the show. Last little bit here. What advice do you have for anybody who's sitting here going, I started this show. Do I want to try it again? Or I did my 3rd show. How do I get the 4th? What advice do you have from anybody out there that's trying not to pod fade?
I do love that expression, pod fade. I'm going to steal that. I want to go back to what I feel that it's a core that is like, write down your goals and what you want to accomplish for the podcast. Vision is everything. If you know where you're going, you know where to walk to. You know which direction you need to go to. If you don't know, you're just going to run around in circles. So it's really build your vision, stick to it, and make it happen. Podcasting is just a vehicle, all right? It's a vehicle. It's not going to save your life, but you need to have a vision. The podcast is the vehicle for it. That's the takeaway. I just want to push that because it's the single most important thing there. And then the other, I would say, just do it. Get started. See how it goes. See how it feels. You might love it. You might hate it. So give it a try.
Give it a try. Create good content. Rinse and repeat. Great words from an amazing podcaster. Tomas, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate your time and looking forward to having you back on the show in the future.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
And that wraps up this episode of the Jeff Bradbury Show, episode number 67. We want to, of course, say thank you to Tomas for coming on the show, talking today all about his passions for podcasting. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out over at the Jeff Bradbury Show, teachercast.net/podcast. You can find us over here at episode 67. And if you have a great story that you'd like to share about anything that you are passionate about, we would love to hear you. Head on over to teachercast.net/contact today and help us help you spread your word. So on behalf of Tomas and everybody here on TeacherCast, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you guys to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.